is the War Machine Rhino, the last ever ECW World Heavyweight Champion, and you're listening to Damage 365 Radio. Keep listening, or you'll get gored in half. WarriorsOfWrestling.com. See roster profiles of past and present Warriors of Wrestling stars. Over 50 highlight videos of Warriors of Wrestling events, full-length match, order tickets to future Warriors of Wrestling events, and an extensive DVD collection featuring past events, compilations, documentaries, and much, much more. Only at WarriorsOfWrestling.com.
This is Lanny Poffo, formerly the genius full of glory and renown. You are listening to Damage 365 Radio.
The following announcement has been paid for by the New World Order.
Yo, welcome back from that short commercial break from Damage 365 and our sponsors. As I mentioned prior to the break, going to get into another top 10 list. Of course, I've done many of these in the past, regarding all types of things, all types of sports. You can see the name of today's episode, Obscure MVPs, and that's what this episode is about. This top 10 list is about. A lot of big superstar players have won MVPs in the past. Not always the case for every MVP award winner, though. Some guy have a breakout season and just never come close to reaching that season again. These guys aren't in the annals of the history books other than their MVP award. None of them even come, or even in consideration for their Sports Hall of Fames. The one interesting thing is, I did this for NBA, NFL, NHL, and MLB, but there's no NBA players on this list. You'll notice that, and that is because every single most valuable player in the National Basketball Association, at least the eligible ones, are all in the Hall of Fame already, and it's almost safe to assume that the ones that aren't quite eligible will get in. Guys like Allen Iverson, Kobe Bryant, Steve Nash, Kevin Garnett, Tim Duncan. I'm probably missing a couple. Steph Curry, LeBron James, Kevin Durant. The one that you could quite possibly say, isn't guaranteed to make the Hall of Fame, but he's still only 26, 27 years old. That's Derrick Rose, who's had quite the injury history since that MVP award, but, he's definitely not obscure, was an elite player, is working back towards that, stayed relatively healthy last season, now a member of my New York Knicks, so he's not really obscure, so really couldn't include any NBA players. MLB is the most represented, and that's quite possibly because they hand out 2 MVP awards rather than one. One for the American League and one for the National League, while one is given out in each sport for the NBA, NFL, and NHL. So that's probably why this list is mostly represented by baseball players. You'll actually hear 6 of the 10 are baseball players. But let's get into the list. Let's start off with number 10. And at least for since he played, 10 and 9 are both baseball players that, were playing when I was really young, first watching the game. And as I got a little older, so they're not obscure to me, but, their numbers don't scream out former MVP. We're going to start with number 10, Ken Caminiti, third baseman for the San Diego Padres in 1996, was awarded the National League MVP, and, it was probably deservedly so. He had a great season, batting .326 with 40 home runs, 37 doubles, 11 stolen bases, 130 RBIs, and 109 runs scored, 7.6 WAR. But if you look at the rest of his career, His other 14 seasons, his MVP season, he batted .326. Other than that, his high was .302. MVP season, 40 home runs. High, other than that, 29. 130 RBIs. MVP season, other 14 years, his high was 94. And 109 runs scored. His high, other than that, was 92. So clearly had a career year in that 1996 season. In those 15 years, he had a career 33.3 WAR. So over a fifth of that came in that MVP season. Career 272 hitter, 239 home runs, and a 794 OPS. He never received the single MVP vote in any other season other than his MVP season, and came just a little short of making the Hall of Fame. Of course, you need 75% of the votes. He got 0.4% in 2007, less than 5%. You're off the Hall of Fame ballot. So, Ken Caminiti, number 10 on the list. Number 9 on the list, another solid player, just like Caminiti, but once again, not a guy, whose numbers shout out former MVP. That is Terry Pendleton, another third baseman, played for the Atlanta Braves in 1991, winning the National League MVP. Again, maybe deservedly so. 6.1 WAR that season. Led the NL in both batting average, 319, and total hits, 187. Also had 22 home runs, 34 doubles, 10 stolen bases, 86 RBIs, and 94 runs. Definitely was a great season, but he played 15 years in his career, and had a 28.2 WAR, so not even 2 wins above replacement per season. And, clearly half of that came in his MVP season and the following season in 1992. 11.0 combined for those 2 seasons. And he was actually the runner-up for MVP the following season in 1992, which, by the way, was his only All-Star appearance in those 15 seasons in the pros. Career 270 hitter, 140 homers, 707 OPS, 1,847 hits. Like I said, solid player, but only received 0.2% of Hall of Fame votes in 2004, obviously falling off the ballot after one try. Number 8 on the list, and the next 2 are former quarterbacks in the NFL. I included these 2 over, we'll call this guy an honorable mention. John Brody, longtime quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers, who is a former MVP. The reason I didn't include Brody and included these 2 guys is because Brody actually won playoff games. I mean, he only won 2 in his career, but that's 2 more than both these guys won. I mean, can you imagine, just think of some former quarterback MVPs. Brett Favre, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Joe Montana, Steve Young. Can you imagine if those guys never won a playoff game, how much, less they would be thought of? Tony Romo's not thought of very... There's some people who don't put Tony Romo as high as others because he only has 2 career playoff wins, but that's also 2 more than both of these guys who are former NFL MVPs. And we're going to start with number 8, and that's Burt Jones. Then a member of the Baltimore Colts in 1976, winning the NFL MVP. Definitely had a strong season that year, leading the Colts to an 11-3 record, 60.3 completion percentage, 3,104 passing yards, led the NFL, 24 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, and a 102.5 passer rating. But in his 10 seasons in the pros, he had a record of 47-49 as a starter. So you take away that MVP season, and he's 36-46 as a starter. 56.1 completion percentage, 124 touchdowns, 101 interceptions, 78.2 career passer rating. It's almost 25 points lower than his MVP season. His only career Pro Bowl in those 10 seasons was that MVP season. As I mentioned, 0 career playoff wins. Career playoff record 0-3. Number 7 on the list, as I mentioned, another quarterback. That is Brian Sipe, quarterback, longtime quarterback as well, of the Cleveland Browns. Won the 1980 NFL MVP. Won 11-5 with a 60.8 completion percentage, 4,132 yards, 30 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, and a 91.4 passer rating. That 91.4 passer rating easily represents his career high, as in 10 seasons. He only had one other season in which his passer rating was over 80, and it was barely over 80, I believe, like 80.7. In those 10 seasons, 56.5 completion percentage, 154 touchdowns, 149 interceptions, 74.8 passer rating. And, at least Burt Jones made the playoffs 3 times, because Brian Sipe, his only career playoff game was in that 1980 season, which was a loss. So it's 2 quarterbacks in NFL history that won MVP, yet have never won a playoff game. And, neither of their career numbers shout out, future Hall of Famer or former MVP. That's why both of those were included on the list. Number 6 on the list, Jeff Burroughs, right fielder for the Texas Rangers, won the 1974 American League MVP. 301 batting average, 25 home runs, led the league with 118 RBIs, 84 runs, 35 doubles, 2 stolen bases, and a 901 OPS. So definitely a strong offensive season. And I stress the word offensive because, despite those very solid numbers, you would expect his WAR to be better, 3.6 that season. That's because his defensive WAR was negative 3.0. So a complete liability in the field, basically. A guy who ended his career as a DH, because of his defensive liabilities. In 16 career seasons, career 17.6 WAR, so barely 1 win above replacement per season. And his career defensive WAR, negative 19.5. Ouch. Put up decent offensive numbers, 240 career home runs, so average of 15 home runs a season, 261 batting average, 795 OPS. Had 2 other seasons in the top 20 in American League MVP voting, once finishing 16th and once finishing 19th. But another guy who's not coming close to ever sniffing the Hall of Fame, but he's a former MVP, Jeff Burroughs, number 6. Number 5 on the list, and, Zoilo Versalles, shortstop, Minnesota Twins. Versalles won the 1965 American League MVP. Was a very strong defensive player, especially that season. Won a Gold Glove. On the year, batted .273 with 19 home runs, 77 RBIs, 27 stolen bases, and then led the American League in 3 categories: 126 runs, 45 doubles, 12 triples, 7.2 WAR. So he's definitely a guy that you can, say may have been worthy of that MVP. But if you look at his career, in 12 seasons, he had just a 12.5 career WAR. So over half of that came in his MVP season. Just a career .242 hitter with 95 home runs and a .657 OPS. Made 1 other All-Star game appearance, did win 1 more Gold Glove.